I think this will be YouTube later on tonight if it's not on right now. Is that correct, Anthony?
It should be live.
We
Right
are
now.
live.
Are we live on YouTube too?
Yes, should
Correct.
be yes.
Should be yes. All right, let's just go right into it. Go ahead, Anthony. You have your weekly update report.
So the report's in the packet. It's also online. Self-explanatory. It's from the department heads. I don't know if there's anybody that has any questions.
I do appreciate the report. Pretty
you.
specific.
Thank
As
you.
I do, takes a lot of effort to get those done, I'm sure.
Yeah, our department heads have been great in getting that information to us, and Nikki wrapping that all up together. So thank you to all.
Comment, Anthony, and that I made it an executive session. I want to make an open session that I'm worried about money in terms of having a shortfall of town cash collections, particularly from May 1st real estate tax bills. That you and I have talked about this before. I think we should need to measure it roughly on May 7th, 8th, 9th, to 10th to find out how many people have not, I think it's how many citizens have not, taxpayers have not sent in their bills. We're due $404,650,000-ish in money. And if only 10% of that doesn't come in, we're short $460,000. If my math is right, I think it is. Don't know if they won't, or don't know if they will, but it's a concern. And that you mentioned the excise tax receipts earlier in the executive session. You don't seem to be very worried about that. Apparently, a lot more people are buying new cars than I thought in the last 3 or 4 months. So good luck to them. And I think we also have to have Chris Holak in the finance department, if he's to do some cash flow projections about how much money we have in the bank, what our expected expenditures are going to be for the next between now and June 30th, and what we're anticipating receipts to be in that period of time from various sources, particularly tax receipts. And basically have that information sooner rather than later. Next week would be really helpful, so that next time the Board of Selectmen meet in the executive session or open session, we can know whether we think we're in trouble or we're not in trouble, and what steps we might need to take further than we might take tonight. And that important, and that I know that you have a good finance staff. They're quite capable of doing this. And they probably are already doing something like this, but I would really appreciate having that information for the Board of Selectmen to review, to find out whether we should be more anxious than we are right now or less anxious. Catherine?
I've said all along, it's an evolving situation, and it's in our best interest to keep on top of it and have as much information as we can. Totally agree with that.
John Clemency?
Oh, yes, fully agreed on the cash flow reporting. I think it should be done weekly. And then that should also be made relevant to the Finance Committee.
Yes. So I don't know if this is in order or not, probably not in order, but as I said in the executive session, I think the town of Hamilton Board of Selectmen, I'm interested in having yet another joint meeting with us. We had one, was it 2 weeks ago? Time flies. It was last week or 2 weeks ago, and they're looking for another one. I think that I'd be interested in what their proposed agenda for the meeting would be, other than just how's it going, guys? And that we didn't accomplish much at the last meeting. It was a friendly meeting, but I'd like to see something of substance, if indeed there is something of substance to discuss. And if not, maybe we should postpone. So you might want to communicate that, Anthony, to your counterpart.
Certainly will.
Okay. Have you had any communication with your counterpart lately?
I normally talk to him almost daily, but I haven't talked. He called me, but we were in executive session today, so I didn't speak to him today.
Okay. Okay, let's just, what's the next item on the agenda here? It's a lot of reports here.
Consent
Pardon me?
agenda. Consent agenda?
Oh, yeah. Yep, where to go?
Want me to do that for you, John? I got it right in front of me.
All right, yeah, I've got it. Thank you, Jack. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve all items on the consent agenda, including the meeting minutes of the open session of March 31st, 2020, April 7th, 2020, April 13th, 2020, April 13th, the joint session with the town of Hamilton Board of Selectmen, also 2020.
Second that.
Do I hear a
Catherine.
second? Okay.
Catherine, second.
All in favor?
Any question? All in favor?
Aye.
Catherine,
Aye.
yes.
Jack William, yes.
I just have one comment on minutes, maybe a question for Nikki and Catherine. I believe that with these approvals, we are up to date on minutes. So if anyone has different information than that, please let me know. I'll look back and try to review them, but I think this brings us up to date.
I believe so.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Well,
Great.
Nikki and I have a job to do, not from the update the minutes, but there are lots of executive sessions that we have had previously approved, but not. I think several of the issues that we didn't want to release have passed by and no longer need to be held. So I'm asking Nikki, and I've asked you before, to provide me a recommended list of items that we can release at a subsequent meeting.
Yep. Perhaps you and I could go over the list that I gave you and we could decide which ones, you could
Yep.
add to the next agenda.
Yep. Good. Okay, Catherine, Children's Mental Health Week, yours. We selected that one particularly for you.
Thank you. It is a topic, which I have some experience with, actually. And it's a request from the Parent Professional Advocacy League, requesting that Wenham joins likes of the City of Boston, the MBTA, the Rose Kennedy Greenway, in proclaiming May 3rd through May 9th Children's Mental Health Awareness Week. PPAL's vision is to provide hope for children with mental health issues and their families through education, advocacy, outreach, and support. So if it's okay with the rest of the other selectmen, I will read this proclamation.
Please do.
Okay, bear with me, guys. Let me try to put it so that I can actually look at the camera. So whereas the citizens of Wenham value their health and mental health and that of their families, therefore they are proud to support observances such as Children's Mental Health Week. And whereas 17% of children and youth ages 6 to 17 live with a mental health condition, and 50% of all lifetime instances of mental health begin before age 14. And even some children and youth with the most intense needs and some who are uninsured may not receive services. And whereas children and youth with mental health needs in elementary, middle, and high school are more likely to be bullied, absent, suspended, expelled, or fail to graduate. And whereas recognizing the early warning signs of mental health needs and obtaining the necessary support, assistance, and treatment gives children and youth better opportunities to lead full and productive lives at home, in schools, and in their communities. And whereas the involvement and partnership of family members in the assessment and treatment of children and youth is essential to positive outcomes, and whereas our nation's future depends on the health and well-being of its families and their children, and whereas Children's Mental Health Week was developed by families of children with emotional, behavioral, and mental health needs to focus on the needs of their children and families in celebrating this year's theme, Vision for Health and Happiness, it is fitting to increase public awareness among all Town of Wenham citizens of this important issue. Now, therefore, the Board of Selectmen of Wenham, Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim May 3rd through 9th, 2020 as Children's Mental Health Awareness Week.
You're reading the abbreviated version as well, right?
Oh yeah, that was the abbreviated version. It didn't, yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'm definitely in favor of it as well.
John?
Aye, yes, I am too.
Okay.
That's a
Aye,
motion
Jack
to,
William, yes.
okay. So we'll have to sign this proclamation at some point, I guess.
I guess so.
Yeah, Nikki does a good job leaving it for us to find.
Mm-hmm. True.
Okay, moving on, I have the next one. Memorial Day update and Veterans Gift and Donation Fund. So last week, I'm a member of the Veterans Committee met, virtually with most of the members there present actually virtually, and that obviously we're perplexed as what to do about Memorial Day. Not too perplexed because we think there's not much of a chance we can have a Memorial Day services and putting wreaths on the graves and parades and stopping here and there and everywhere. And so none of the members thought it was really possible with this social distancing that we can do what we have done in the past reluctantly, and that there was some talk about how much money we have in replanting newer flags, small flags on the graves at the various cemeteries. And I think we have some money to do that, and that to do that. Bill Wilson made a great presentation on that. So the committee unanimously approved that. Along those lines, though, that the committee thought that we don't have any access to funds. We have a small amount of administrative funds, basically for Tinsley taking minutes. Beyond that, maybe some mailing stuff. So we thought that we could do more if we had some money, and that it was proposed by a member that we have established a Veterans Committee gift account, and that it was debated, and most of the debate was what we call the committee. And so that it was a unanimous opinion of the board. I'm going to read this. Move the Board of Selectmen approve the request from the Veterans Committee to establish a Veterans gift account. Receive donations from the community for special projects and needs of our veteran community, which was passed unanimously. And this requires a approval of the Board of Selectmen, which is why this is being brought tonight to the Board of Selectmen. We don't have any specific immediate ideas of how to spend the money. We just know we don't have any money, and we use some money for small things that finance department can easily keep track of various donations. So that's the request that's the motion and the request to the Board of Selectmen from the Veterans Committee.
I would second that motion.
John?
Yes, I'm going to support it, but you broke up a bit, Jack. These are strictly private funds coming into this account. Is that correct?
That's right. Yes, we're looking for citizens' donations or donations, really. It could be a bank, but into an account specifically for the Veterans Committee to allocate to expenses that they don't have the money for right now. Although they don't have a list of those, but they just know that they don't talk about it because they have no money. So that looking for people who might want to generously donate occasionally to the this Veterans Gift.
Well, I think that's a great idea, and maybe every couple of meetings we ought to bring the subject up so that people are aware of it. It's a new founded function.
I vote yes as well. All in favor? John?
Aye.
Catherine?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Passes unanimously. Okay. Let's see. What's next?
Update from Mary Beth.
Oh, yeah.
King.
Health and Public Health Nurse. Is she here?
Yes,
I
she
am
is.
here.
How are you holding up, Mary Beth?
Very well.
That's good.
It's been a quieter week in terms of activity within our own community. We continue to, Jackie and I and Nikki continue to work together to roll out promotional education for the community. We continue to update the website twice weekly. The change that has occurred now is that the state is reporting local data by municipality once a week on Wednesdays. So that will be updated by the state tomorrow. As it stands, we have had 7 people test confirmed for COVID-19. As I say each time when I tell you about this, there are more people who have been affected by this virus in our community than that number reflects, because of those who have not accessed testing, and some other issues as well. But by and large, I'm very grateful for the efforts that all of our community members are making to take part in the daily prevention activities, to stay home, to wash your hands, to cover your face when you leave your home. All of these things are incredibly important and will be helpful. As you will likely have heard, on the state level today, the governor canceled the remainder of the school year here in Massachusetts. That gives you a sign of where things are going. And our modeling, I think when we last spoke, our modeling was we would be deeply in the surge by this point, and that modeling is now pushing back further. We're anticipating it more around the 30th or later. So we just need to continue, although the weather is going to be getting nicer, we need to remain vigilant in all of our daily prevention activities. And I know that Dr. Ting is also present. I don't know if there's anything from the Board of Health, but that's pretty much it. I don't know if anyone has any questions about public health activities.
Mary Beth, John Clemenzi, I do have a question.
Mhm.
And the question is, you were bringing on, I think it was 5 new nurses to the function.
Uh-oh.
It was such a demand.
We're having some
Anybody hear me?
audio issues.
Oh, okay.
John, I apologize. That didn't come through. I know you were asking about the nurses that we brought on board. I
Correct.
can tell you that they've all gone through the training to use the Maven system, which is the computer system that we use to identify cases and contacts. So they're aware how to use it. They've done the training with the state. And then I did a hour-and-a-half webinar with them together by Zoom conference to just go over the logistics, really, case by case, how they would go through handling it, little guidance about how they would conduct an interview and answer questions like that. At this point in time, I have not used any of them to handle cases in Wenham. As the volume increases, which we anticipate, I do anticipate doing that. But the other thing that's good to have them on board is that if illness should hit my own house, we have people who can pick up and do the work if I'm unwell.
Great. Because I know I was very concerned about hearing how overloaded you were. It's not a good thing to have happen without some backup. So
Yeah.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask a question as well?
Yes.
It's about testing, kind of a general question. I don't really think, and many people have asked me this, which I can't answer, what the criteria is for actually getting testing. And tonight you reminded me, because you talked about 7 confirmed with testing and then some number that we don't know that's not confirmed with testing. Is there a standard criteria for who gets tested and who doesn't?
I'm watching Dr. Ting nodding his head, so I'm going to turf that question to him.
Dr. Ting? Happy to hear from you.
Yeah, so the Centers for Disease Control, or CDC, and the Mass Department of Public Health do have categories of individuals which are prioritized for testing. It doesn't mean that not anybody could be tested, but they prioritize them that way. So, for example, those individuals who are healthcare providers or first responders and are symptomatic with fever, shortness of breath, cough, and such would get testing priority over someone who's not a healthcare worker or first responder. And then as the categories go down in priority, you have those individuals who have traveled either overseas or from areas of high density of COVID, and they are symptomatic. So each of the categories have some high risk plus symptoms equals testing. So those individuals who are not recommended for testing are those who are sort of what we describe as the worried well, meaning I just want to know if I have it or not, but I feel fine. Or I may have been exposed to somebody who has COVID. We're not sure, but I feel fine. Um, those individuals should talk to their healthcare provider and they can make the decision whether or not testing is appropriate or not. But at least from the main categories, it's those individuals who are in a high risk category and are symptomatic are those who get tested prioritized wise until testing becomes available general all over the place. Then potentially we could start expanding it. But that's currently the order of priority for the state and the CDC in terms of testing.
And Catherine, I may be stating the obvious, but the rationale for prioritizing healthcare workers and first responders is the risk that they pose by their interaction with the public of spreading the virus further.
Sure. I certainly understand the the way it's prioritized. I guess what I am assuming, and I don't know if I'm assuming this correctly, is that there is a need for prioritization because there is not the capacity to test everyone who some people are presenting with symptoms that, according to their primary care, seem to be COVID-19, but are not necessarily going to be tested. They may be told to just, go home and quarantine. And I'm presuming that's because, they have to prioritize because there are not enough tests available to test everyone, even those people who have symptoms, unless they are a high risk or a first responder or something. Is that a fair statement? I don't mean a lot.
Yeah, I mean, so I would say, so there's two parts to that. One is the number of tests available keeps on increasing every day as more and more companies get into testing.
Right.
But now we're limited on the number of places where you could get tested that can do it properly.
I see.
Because these places need to, so the recommendation now is to test outdoors. So you have to have an outdoor facility made, as well as the individuals doing the testing also have to have the personal protection equipment that we hear is in short supply in areas. So if you don't have that, then even if you have an abundant amount of testing material or collection kit, you're limited on the ability to get those specimens. So that's part of it too. But
Okay.
Mary Beth had stated earlier that, Maven only collects those individuals that have positive COVID testing, whereas there's new criteria now to clinically define somebody with COVID, which Mary Beth probably knows more about. But that's a new criteria, so you wouldn't require testing, but it's a clinical diagnosis at that point.
Okay.
And I don't want to get too deep in the weeds on this for those that are not intimately interested, but there are changes that DPH is undertaking now to allow for putting in suspect or probable cases.
Mhm.
And the probable is a criteria now or a category that we're using where that means someone has what they call an epidemiologic link. So that is maybe you're a household contact of someone who's positive and you have symptoms. That makes you a probable, or in the parlance of the Maven system, a suspect case. So this is something that's just been happening over the last few days. They're working on it and it's coming up. So we might see our numbers changing. And then, we'll have to have a discussion about how we're reporting, because as at the present time, we are reporting confirmed cases.
Okay. Thank you. I probably do have a few more questions, but I'll ask you offline.
Absolutely.
But thank you for that. I appreciate it,
You're welcome.
both of you. That's all I
I have a
have.
comment. This is Jack Willem. I have a comment that I heard from somebody yesterday that although we've closed the rail trail on Route 97 Topsfield Road, the other people are laughing at us because all the towns have not done so. And people go access the rail trail from Topsfield, particularly in Danvers, and then walk it down, and that are accessing our rail trails from another town. And I was under the impression, maybe I'm incorrect or misunderstood, that other towns had agreed to close the rail trail. But from what people are telling me who walk the rail trail, we're the only town that's closed the rail trail. Is that true? Hello?
I don't know who wants to take that. I can tell you that part of our decision for rail trail closure was a real concern about the access point on Route 97 and the parking and the dangerous situation that that put people who were using the rail trail in. We also wanted to get out in front in terms of the weather and it getting nicer and actively discouraging people from using a path where it would be difficult to sustain the 6 feet of distance, particularly where, you know, we have the swamp walk as part of our part of the rail trail, and the swamp walk is not 6 feet in width, so that does not allow for appropriate physical distancing from one another when you're using the trail. So those were the reasons. I know that, and I think Anthony could speak to the fact that he did reach out to other town administrators to let them know that this is something we were concerned about, that we were considering an action we were planning to take. And it's been very busy, and I don't think he heard back from all of them, their feedback about our town's plan.
Anthony, you want to comment on that?
Mary Beth Tang, John Clemency. Yeah, I want to pipe in because I've had numerous comments from our town folks who are kind of angry that, you know, they see all these other people. And as a matter of fact, I know of people from Manchester, just from the Topsfield land alone. So it's a bit frustrating for, you know, for people to understand why are we doing this restriction and not supporting it. So I didn't know if there was anything the police department could do, Captain.
Tom Perkins' name in front of me. Is he on?
I am, sir. I'm having some video difficulties, but I am here.
Okay. Yeah.
We can hear
Okay.
you.
We can hear you. Yeah.
We can hear you. Just that, is it true the other towns have not done what we've done, which is, I think it's the right thing to do. I'm not advocating we do something different, but it kind of defeats the purpose a little bit by having the other people from the other towns access the rail trail from Topsfield and other areas, Danvers as well, and come through Wenham. I don't know.
So
No,
there was,
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think we made the effort where we could. I think it was the responsible thing to do. I don't think we should change our minds either, but I would say that it does not seem that our neighbors wholeheartedly agree.
Okay.
they did answer, Jack, to answer your question. I did pass on our plan. Their Board of Health, respective Board of Health were gonna look into that, but apparently they didn't choose to close their sections of the rail trail.
Okay. Well, anyway, we discussed it. So moving on, thank you, Mary Beth and Dr. Ting, and that appreciate your update. I see our numbers are holding at 7. It was 7 last week, 7 this week, and that we're pretty low amongst the towns in Massachusetts, and particularly on the North Shore in Essex County. That's great. So one of my former bosses called me, who lives in the area, said, Jack, what are you all doing to keep the numbers so low? I couldn't answer that. And
Following the rules.
pardon me?
Following the rules.
Following the rules.
Physical distancing, hygiene. I'm trying to see if I can remember them all, Mary Beth.
Yeah, social distancing. Well, thank you, Mary Beth and Dr. Ting. Anthony, the next in our package is this Article 16, the election date change. You put
There's one thing before that, Jack. There's the Board of Health has voted on their last meeting an emergency order and declaration to make all members of public entering into any essential businesses that they must wear face coverings such as fabric, mask, scarf, or bandana over his or her mouth. All employees of essential businesses shall wear face coverings when interacting with the public within 6 feet. Any resident or member of general public entering or exiting a residential unit must wear a face covering while in common areas, in communal spaces, and must exercise social distancing in these spaces. So this was an order that the Board of Health passed at the last meeting. So the second part of any order is the Board of Selectmen to concur with their order, so it becomes more enforceable.
You making a motion, Anthony?
I
I can make a motion if you need a
Yeah.
motion. I
Well,
think,
somebody does.
well, the motion is, I think, pretty straightforward. It's move that the Board of Selectmen support the order that was put forward by the Board of Health on, looks like the 15th of May, 2020.
Yes.
So that's the motion. And we,
15th of May, 2020?
15th of, did I say May?
Yeah.
No, 15th of
April.
April. Sorry.
Okay, I'll second that. I didn't see that in my package. Okay. All in favor?
Can I ask a question first?
Yeah, go ahead.
I am in favor, but since this was already brought up at a meeting, there have been a couple of questions. And so I guess I'm wondering if, as information along with this order, we should be listing or can list those facilities, buildings in town, some of which are not obvious, that this would apply to. I've had a couple of questions on, well, the bagel shop or Harmling PT. So I don't, not my purview to decide which buildings are, people should be wearing masks in. But I just wondered, since it had some questions, if the Board of Health could take a look at that and make sure they've captured all the buildings that they intend to target with this order.
So the order applies to the essential businesses which are defined by the governor. Therefore, non-essentials are supposed to be closed. So those non-essentials would not be affected because technically they're supposed to be closed until May the 4th anyways. So there would be essential, which would be like a grocery store, pharmacies, health, for example, a physical therapy. It could be defined as a healthcare facility and therefore, could fall under there as well. And then we included also municipal buildings as well, which obviously if you needed to list them would be like town hall, fire, police, DPW and such would be municipal facilities as well. So I think I think Jackie has the list of the number of actually businesses that are considered essential in our town that have been notified.
Okay, so that would include, for instance, to any kind of a facility that provides food for takeout. Is that true?
Right.
That's considered
Right.
to be.
Right. If you're going to go into the building in order to grab your food to leave, you have to wear a mask as well as the employees inside that building would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. That's my only question on it. I'm ready to vote.
While we're on the Board of Health, and I was driving by your street, Catherine, Pleasant Road, Pleasant Street. Was the big sign up there closed by the order of the Board of Health? How did that happen?
Pleasant Pond?
Pleasant Pond Road, but that it was right in front. It's on the, Cherry Street. It's on the intersection Cherry Street and Pleasant Street.
The entrance of Pleasant Street.
Yeah, I don't recall that coming to before the Board of Selectmen before, but it said it was closed by the order of Board of Health.
And we're talking, I thought that sign said, and I've only seen it once actually, I can tell how much I'm getting out. Pleasant Pond is closed, not Pleasant Street. Correct?
No, but it's at the corner of Pleasant Street and Topsfield Road, Cherry Street, I'm sorry. And as you pass by it quickly, it looks like that street is closed, which it isn't. But I don't recall us talking about that before.
Maybe the police chief or captain could explain why it's there. I have a guess.
Sure, that was part of our last presentation when we included the permanent signage out on Topsfield Road and some of the side streets. We had a lot of complaints from residents that people were coming down to the beach road, trying to get in and then having to turn around in people's driveway and such. So it is only that the beach is closed, and it was just to try to limit traffic from getting all the way down there, which I guess was kind of substantial on the weekends.
I can
I
affirm
don't
that.
disagree with it. I'm just saying that I was surprised to see because I didn't remember having it on our agenda in the past.
Well, I think it was part of the signage package, and as a resident, speaking only, I'm very grateful for it because we were getting a lot of traffic, and not a lot of traffic, a noticeable amount of traffic that you could see drive in one direction down Pleasant Street and then very shortly later drive back the other direction. So since it's a dead end and it ends in the pond and the pond is closed, the traffic on the street has been reduced a lot by having that sign at the end of the road, which is a benefit to those of us who walk up and down the street or our exercise. So
My question is it illegal to go down the street itself? You know, it's at the corner, I just said 3 times, it's at the corner of Cherry Street and Pleasant Street. So it looks like you shouldn't take a right if you're coming out of town to go down that street. That's all.
what does the sign exactly say?
By order of the Board of Health, the Pleasant Pond, I don't know, maybe Tom Perkins.
It just gives people an early warning that the beach itself is closed.
So it says Pleasant Pond Beach is closed?
No, it doesn't say that.
Yeah, I would want to see it to be 100% sure before I comment.
Someone who's driving around, which is probably not me, maybe could get back to us and say what exactly that sign says. Because
I think it should say, just like Tom Perkins said a second ago, Pleasant Pond Beach is closed. And that would, you know, you can still go down Pleasant Street, but not to Pleasant Pond. So
I'll see to it first thing tomorrow.
Thank you.
Afternoon is fine. Anyway, so if you have, I got it. I made my point. Anyway, okay.
So I think we have a motion that's seconded, but did we vote?
15
No.
minutes. I'm not sure. Let's do it.
Okay. Okay. Catherine, yes.
Yes, Jack.
John, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. Update from
Thank you to the Board of Health for putting that. I think there are a lot of people who are will be relieved to see more masks on people that are going in stores and are in buildings, municipal buildings with other people.
I see a lot of people walking. Some have masks, some don't. Most of the runners don't, by the way. The people who run don't, but the people who walk do.
Oh, that's a whole nother controversy.
Yeah. All right, on to the next one. New business. We had a joint meeting with the Board of Select, our annual town meeting and annual elections. And so obviously April is almost come and gone. We're not having the annual town meeting, which transpired already, nor the elections, which would have been a week ago or so. So we don't know. The answer is we don't know. We're trying to coordinate with the town of Hamilton, partly the point of meeting with them a couple of weeks ago, and they don't know either. We are penciling in a couple of dates. I prefer not to mention them because we're probably going to change those, and I don't want people to say, well, gee, we heard tonight that XYZ date. So it's probably going to be in June. But that's all dependent upon what Charlie Baker says about the lockdown for the state, and that as of today, he's only closed the schools down apparently for the rest of the year. He hasn't extended his May 4th lockdown, so to speak. I would expect, just personally, that he would say something the next 2 or 3 days because May 4th is right around the corner. And he may say, I don't know, he could say July 1. Nothing's going to happen until July 1. Or he could say June 1. So we can't really plan and that announce any potential dates. We want to coordinate with it. We don't have to, but we should, and we will coordinate with the town of Hamilton, particularly for the town elections. So we'll keep you apprised until we don't know any more than what I've just said, and either does anyone else, and that until we understand when we're permitted to have this. We've tried to come up with alternative voting scenarios other than town hall, and using Booker and working closely with Diane Bucco, floating ideas. Some of these possible, others not. There's all kinds of rules she has to apply to elections, and she thinks she can get waivers in some of these, but we're working on it. But basically, even if she's successful, and the town is successful, we're not going to announce any dates until we hear from Charlie Baker about what's permitted to relax the social distancing. And that as soon as we know, we're going to publicize this on our website and as broadly as we can, because we want active participation at town meeting. We don't want to have a quorum issue like we had last year, and we don't have any quorum. We'll let you know when we know. we're comfortable in setting a date, and along with concurrence from our counterparts in the town of Hamilton. Okay. I think I'm next to.
Jack, excuse me. I'm sorry. Can I just do one quick thing? John Clemenzi, if you've got the audio fixed on your phone, you can still put your phone on speaker so you don't have to hold it the whole time. But your audio is much
Oh.
better on the phone. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry for the technical interruption.
Okay, the next one is potential vote to waive interest and penalty on real estate tax remittances that are due May 1st. And so I'm going to read the vote and explain it. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote in accordance with Chapter 53 of the Acts of 2020, entitled An Act to Address Challenges Faced by Municipalities and State Authorities Resulting from COVID-19, to waive the interest penalty for the fourth quarter real estate taxes due on May 1st through May 31st. So what we're basically saying is that we want residents and the banks who have the escrow accounts to pay the bills by May 1st. However, if anyone cannot pay it by May 1st and can't pay it till May 10th, 20th, 30th, whatever, we will not assess the penalty, which I believe is 2% payments that are received after May 1st. And so there's we still want the money, but we won't charge you interest if anyone is delayed up through and including May 31st on your fourth quarter real estate bills. Comments by my two fellow selectmen?
So there's a 1 month sort of grace period in which people are not required, if they can't, to pay the interest and penalty for late payment of taxes. Is that
Right.
what I'm, that correct? If they pay after the 31st, interest penalties would start to accrue.
That's correct.
Okay, I got it.
Done? Okay. So this is we're interest only because a lot of the money we receive in real estate taxes will come from the banks from escrow accounts. So if we said it's not due till June 1st, the banks are not going to pay us before June 1st,
Right.
and that we want that money, and
Yes.
that they're not going to pay earlier than they have to, and so that these are citizens that we're going to waive it for, so that at least we want the money, and the banks are going to pay it. They're going to program in what the date is, and they're going to pay it. But individual taxpayers who don't have escrow accounts that have trouble having financial difficulties, the least we can do is see if we can forego the interest for the month of May if they pay it anytime during the month of May, prior to May 31. So I do have a second on that.
I second that motion.
John? Comment?
Second, yes.
Well, you
I
did third.
agree.
Okay. All in favor?
Catherine, yes.
Aye.
Jack Wilhelm, yes. Very good. It'd be interesting to see how many people will actually take advantage of that, but I think some people are hurting. We want to help them out as best we can. Okay, let's see. A lot of stuff in KP Law here. Let's see. This, okay. Anthony,
Yes, sir.
you're up.
Okay, so on April 7th, at the Board of Selectmen meeting on April 7th, I was charged with looking at non-essential town functions for possible reductions in FY '20. So there's a 5-page report included in the packet. I don't know if you want me to go through everything or just to summarize at the end and what I think the board could do as far as with some cuts that would not necessarily affect current employees. How do you want me to handle that, Jack? Do you want me?
Just summarize what we approved in executive session.
Sure. So at Pleasant Pond, there would be, we wouldn't hire the gatekeepers and lifeguards through June 30th. I'm sorry, through June 30th, 2020. That would save $6,938. In Public Works, again, we would not hire right now some part-time and summer help that normally we would bring on really starting now. And so they wouldn't be hired for April, May, and June. That would save 3,000 in one category and 2,800 in another, as well as three capital budget items. Street capital, which is 85,000, that's used to do some winter repair, winter maintenance. Fortunately, we had a pretty good winter. So that's 85,000. Tree maintenance for 10,000. That's damage from winter as a result of the winter on trees. That's 10,000, and new tree plantings for this spring for $2,000. That totals 97. So in total, on the public works side is $102,813. On facilities, again, that would also be summer help that we would start hiring in May. In June, we wouldn't hire those positions right now. That would save $3,750. And this is on the final thing is on the town clerk has a part-time salary, which is currently not working because the building is not open. So leave that position vacant for the rest of this fiscal year. That's $1,376. So in total, there's $114,877 that the selectmen agreed in executive session. And there's another 5 categories which continue to be reviewed and be discussed depending on our financial situation as it unfolds.
Thank you, Anthony. Let me amplify on that last point. We had a lengthy meeting about, again, my concern. I'm not sure it's shared by everyone, but I'm very worried about the cash coming in. But hopefully the finance department will assure me that my anxiety is not well-founded in the next 10 days or so. But nevertheless, we've made certain reductions. There were other reductions that were discussed, which we're going to hold off on now, presenting and for approval, pending our review of our cash projections. And a couple of these, obviously, the joint library is a joint library of the town of Hamilton, and they constitute approximately 65% of the costs, although it's under our auspices. And the town of Hamilton is in charge of the joint rec programs. And so that we wouldn't want to do anything if we didn't want to do something without the concurrence of the town of Hamilton. And that, so we're holding off on any recommendations or whatever, told that our cash collections will be sufficient between now and the end of June 30th to pay our bills this year. Next year is another story, and that we're not going to talk about that tonight, but obviously we went through a very lengthy process on our fiscal 2021 budget for next year. The FinCom approved it in most of the overrides, not all. And that I think that in conversation with the chairman, Alex Began, this afternoon, I think he's thinking about his committee reviewing that in light of the changing circumstances between 10 weeks ago and today. But that'll be up to them. It's their job to present at the annual town meeting what they recommend the voters who attend a town meeting approve or not approved. So that we're in communication, and that he's concerned about it, and we'll be talking to his fellow FinCom members as to what their druthers are. They would at least get together again and discuss whether they still are in favor of all things they voted in favor of. But that's a couple of weeks away. So let's see, and that I think I covered what I wanted to do, or we wanted to do. Anything, Catherine and John? Do you think you want to ad lib on that?
I just have a question, a procedural question. We heard a recommendation from Anthony relative to what could be reduced at this time. Do we need to memorialize that in any way, or?
I think we do.
So I don't have the exact dollar number, but I guess it would be a motion to authorize the reduction of expenses as described by Anthony Ansaldi in the
The
amount.
dollar amount, Catherine, is $114,877 of reductions to the areas of Pleasant Pond, Public Works, Facilities, and Town Clerk as discussed.
Okay, does that work, Catherine?
Second that,
Tinsley?
Yep. John?
Second.
Okay, Kathy made the motion. All in favor?
Catherine, yes.
Jack Wilhelm?
John, yes.
So more to come, and that, more to come, and we'll see.
Hey, Jack,
Yep,
that sign that you were asking, it says per order of the Wenham Board of Health, Pleasant Pond Beach is closed. It's a sawhorse with the sign on it. I don't know if you can see that.
Boy, aren't our residents great?
They're the best.
Instantaneous.
yeah.
Pleasant Pond Beach is
Put it up
closed.
there again, Anthony. Put it up there again.
Sure.
Let's see. Leave it up there now. It's kind of blurry. Pleasant Pond Beach is closed. Okay, per order of Wenham Board of Health, Pleasant Pond Beach is closed. Okay, that's good. I must have been going faster than the speed limit when I went by.
We won't tell anybody.
Earmuffs.
You didn't hear that, Captain, right?
That's right, earmuffs right now. Nothing.
And I didn't slow down to read the entire sign. Sorry, Tom, you're all set. Okay.
That's okay.
And thanks to the resident or whoever it was who took that picture.
Natalie, she's wonderful.
Ah,
Thanks, Natalie.
yes.
Let's see. Anthony, was there anything else we have on the agenda that we haven't covered?
That would be it, Mr. Chairman.
Well, actually, on the agenda, we had this this business of the town meeting on, do you really want to?
Oh, I'm sorry, that.
Yeah, the April 2012 town meeting in terms of when we vote for the elections in terms of the Thursday after town meeting. That was on there, but do you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, just briefly. Thanks to another one of our residents who realized that back in May of 2012, there was a citizen petition that was put forth making the annual elections to be the Thursday after town meeting, or in the event if there was a holiday for, then it could be one of the other two Thursdays. Approval of the Board of Selectmen, recommendation of the town clerk, approval of the Board of Selectmen. So that's what Wenham, it seems to have been doing in the past years. It just never was memorialized in the town bylaws. Normally something like that, you'd like to have memorialized in the bylaws. So this way you're not relying upon somebody's memory of, 8 years ago. So one question that I had is within the citizen petition, was it done correctly? And if so, maybe we could incorporate that into the bylaws, maybe for the next town meeting to memorialize that if that's the wishes of, it certainly passed overwhelmingly back in 2012, if not unanimously. So probably should get that in the bylaws.
My question to Anthony, when we discussed this earlier, was that if this is an oversight for somebody in the town hall, the townspeople shouldn't be penalized by that. But I think we want to have a definitive answer from our legal counsel. I hate using legal counsel, but so are we bound to by that vote just because we don't have it in our memorialized bylaws or not? And if the answer is no, we're not bound by that, should we represent that to be bound by it? If that was the wish of that 2012 committee, annual town meeting, or not? And that so I think we need an answer to that question, which Anthony's going to follow up on, which should be either yes or no. So that
Yeah, I did shoot her the email last week, Jack, and I have not heard back with her. I just sent her another and asked her anything yet. So hopefully we'll get some information back on that, and then we'll just figure out how to go forward with that.
Yeah, I would think the answer should be yes, because if the town meeting voted for it, because we didn't do some paperwork behind the scenes in terms of why should the town vote be nullified just because of that? But nevertheless, let legal opinion, our lawyers on the cheap, I hope, opine on that.
I will speculate, because I know this was the case on other situations, that at that time, citizens petitions would have been reviewed by town council before they came to town meeting. So whether or not our present town council agrees or not, we need to know. But now that I'm remembering this, I'm pretty sure that there was, that our town council, that was Paul Weaver at the time, did opine on this particular motion. So it's not as if there was no town council approval, but I agree with you, Jack. We should find out what our present town council thinks.
Yeah, we're going to present thank you. Yes, I agree. And so we're going to present a citizen petition when we eventually have a town meeting that I'm not going to describe it tonight. Does not pass muster with the state. The form of the petition did not go through certain state mandates, and whether the town votes in favor or not in favor, it won't be memorialized in our bylaws because it's a deficient citizens petition. But we're going to describe that at town meeting. And I'll nullify the mysteries. Should we go from 3 selectmen to 5 selectmen, so that there was a citizen petition to go to 5 selectmen. And once a citizen petition is signed by the requisite number of signatories, we're bound to actually present it. However, if it doesn't meet state bylaws, state laws, so on and so forth, it's non-operable. Anyway, so getting a legal opinion on what we just talked about a minute ago is desirable. Not this, but the for the 2012 meeting. I think we've covered everything, Anthony. Do I miss anything? Did I miss anything?
Nope, that's everything, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So I move at 7:30.
May I speak up?
Yes.
I've never attended a meeting where I didn't get my 2 cents in. And I've been watching you guys for the past hour and a half or hour, whatever. And first off, I want to say thank you to you guys for what you're doing. There's tremendous challenges ahead. But I also want to say that we have, this is a transitory situation. It's going to pass. And I hope we keep the long-term perspective in view. What we're dealing with is temporal. A year from now, something completely different. And in the meantime, I truly hope that we can all continue to work in the environment that we're working. I got to say, it's pretty cool dealing with Anthony and Jackie and everybody at Town Hall. That everybody's doing the best they can. So, as are you. So, thank you all, and that's all.
Well, thank you, Steve. I
Who
really,
was that guy?
I fully agreed. We have a fabulous team in place, and I don't want to see anything changed on that front. So, and I know how hard everybody's been working to keep the ship afloat and going in the right direction.
So thank you, Steve. Thank you for the endorsement there. Steve and I attended assessor's training course a long time ago together, and
We were teenagers, I think.
we both passed. Oh, Anthony, I have one more for you. I'm sorry, I passed over this. It's not high on the agenda. It's not on the agenda at all, but Mary Ann Street is still looking for an answer whether or not we want that tulip tree. So I did talk to our town tree warden, and he said, hey, I don't know. And that's fine with me. But Mary Ann Streeter is the largest landowner in Wenham, and I disappointed her a year ago because no one got back to me with her question. And the question basically is, she has a lot of tulip trees. Never heard of one, but she has an immature one that's 5 feet tall and is willing to donate to the town to replace the beech tree, birch tree that fell over. And so whether the answer is yes or no, it's out of my league, but someone needs to get back to her definitively and say, thank you very much, Mrs. Streeter. We'd love to have her. We'll dig it up next week. Or, Gene, I'm sorry, not one way or the other. I don't want to have a call from Mary Ann Streeter again.
Okay, I thought our tree warden was going out there to talk to her, but I'll follow up with Bill and Win and find out.
Yeah. I hope when I get to her age, I'm as lively as she is because she's pretty lively. All right, I move we adjourn.
Second,
Favor, John?
Yes.
Yes.
Catherine, yes.
Okay, 7:41. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
you.
everybody.
Everyone.